Good morning and welcome to the Arctic Adventure gear video.
One foot in front of the other, and then you do that for several days and suddenly you have crossed the whole Svalbard.
You probably know that me and 6 friends went to the Arctic last year to ski all across Spitsbergen for 40 days. We were out there just with our tents, our skis and our sleds behind us. And if you don't know it, I made a 1.5 hour documentary movie which you can watch. I'll link it down in the video description. And what I'm going to do today is to go through all the gear I had with me for those 40 days and to show you what you might need to not only start an adventure like this, but also to finish it after 40 days without any major complications. And to not lose any time, we'll start right away with the base layer. This is basically 100% merino clothes from ICEBREAKER, and if you don't know what merino is, this natural fiber that keeps you warm regardless if the clothes are dry or wet. And if you're getting too hot, it also regulates the heat so that you don't overheat. So there's basically no plastic on my skin, which is a game changer, and I won't change anything about this in the future. And if you want to do an adventure like this, I strongly recommend you doing the same. I once did a 2 weeks hike in a plastic polyester shirt, and after the second day I started to sweat and it stinks and it's horrible for everyone involved. And if you're on a 40-day trip with others in a tent and you can't shower regularly, that is a huge game changer. The underwear is 100% merino as well, and I put this boxer short on the day I left Munich in the plane, and I changed it the day I got my first real shower after 45 days of skiing, and I would definitely do it again. I felt super comfortable. Didn't need the second pair, although we did have 2 pairs of kind of each item with us, so one thick, one thin base layer, 2 base layer pants, 2 socks, and then what I got here, this is basically woolen socks that I got for 10 euros, maybe in the Longyearbyen store, which is on Spitsbergen. I got 2 pairs of them, and at night in the tent, I would just put on 2 pairs of socks over each other. So 2 socks on the right, 2 socks on the left, and it kept my feet nice and warm in the tent. And then these socks, the ICEBREAKER merino socks, I would use them for skiing and for the daily activity. Next up is the mid-layer, which is basically another merino pullover from ICEBREAKER as well. And to cover it, if it gets really cold in the tent, we would have this real fleece jacket, which is called fleece, but it is merino wool as well, and it keeps you really, really warm. I'm getting way too warm in here now. So all of these clothes come for a price kind of, because only this jacket costs about 350, I think, and the pullover beneath is 250 or 300, and then all the base layer pieces are minimum 100 euros each. And for me it's kind of easy to say because ICEBREAKER sponsored our trip and they gave it to us for free basically. But now, having spent 40 days in the Arctic in these clothes, I would probably spend the money next time and get these, because there's nothing better than merino for these kinds of adventures. And if you want to do the same and feel comfortable for 40 days wearing one boxer short or 1 pair of underwear, for example, yeah, you should probably do the same. Next up is the jackets and the shells we had, starting with the pants, which are basically from Hugglefs, from the Less is More series. Gore-Tex, I suppose, and super waterproof. They feel great, they are super lightweight, and I had no problem with them at all the whole trip. I wore them at any time except in the tent. Definitely recommend them. Alright, we had a vest from Hugglefs as well, which also sponsored our trip with shouts, jackets and this pants. I don't know if I wore this at all, maybe a couple of times when it got really cold, which is a nice to have. It's super lightweight for what it can and for what it, like for the power of warmth it has in it. Next up would be the shell. Basically the same as the pants. It's from the Hugglefs Less is More series. It's super lightweight. You are totally flexible, which is nice. And it's also highly waterproof. I had no problems. I go skiing with it, that works perfectly. I go hiking, I go mountaineering. And they have some nice features, like this cord from the hood is on the outside, so you can repair it if it breaks easily, instead of like having to fiddle in something inside the hood, which is normal, kind of, I guess. Big ventilation holes, which is nice as well. I'm personally a fan of ventilation without a net, and they don't have a net, so perfect for me. Last in the setup is our down jacket, which is basically also from the Hug Gloves Less is More series. It feels super nice, it's lightweight, it's kind of puffy, it has big pockets, which is also good. The only thing that you might miss on this jacket, it's not super 100%, it's freezing ice cold outside warm. So it is very warm. If you are standing outside though for 2 hours on polar bear watch, for example, and don't move, and you're a person who freezes fast, you might want to think about getting a slightly thicker jacket, even more puffy jacket, or just a big coat, depending on the weight you wanna carry. But yeah, I only used this. It was perfect. I never had problems with a cold. For my pants, I don't have it here, but for polar bear watches I had some down pants as well, which I would just pull over these Gore-Tex pants to keep me warm, which is kind of essential when you're just sitting there for 2 hours at night on polar bear watch and it's cold and freezing outside. So I can't really show you those because I don't know where they are, but this is something I would recommend as well. Some nice down pants, could be synthetic. I think mine was synthetics, some others were down. Synthetics don't get damaged when you sit down and they get wet, so it's kind of nice. But they're heavier. There's one feature though I forgot to tell you about on the pants we were wearing. You can basically zip them up completely, and whatever shoes you have on you, you don't have to like get out of your shoes or your boots. You can just unzip it and can take your pants on and off with your shoes still on, which is very handy when it's cold and you don't want to get out of your shoes. Hats, which is really important. We had some from Haddock Headwear, which feel super nice, but of course you shouldn't wear them like this, but over your ears to keep them nice and warm all the time. I also had this one, which is real fur. I don't ever buy real fur because I just don't think the ethic is good behind it, but I got this as a gift from Jonas's grandfather. So instead of throwing it away, I thought, why not wear it on this expedition? And it is super warm, I have to admit that. So this is what I had in my bag as well. For your hands, one pair of Merino liners, one pair of Merino gloves from ICEBREAKER as well. And then the majority I would use these Hestra felt guides, I suppose they're called, gloves, which are really nice, made out of leather. And as a little hint to your next adventure, I would try to do everything you do with your thickest gloves on and practice it maybe at home, which is opening kind of some zippers maybe, which is very nice that Hug Gloves has this big zipper strands to grab it with big gloves. Put on your shoes, tie your shoelaces with gloves, because normally you can't put them off, it's okay. But if it's freezing cold and your hands are already cold and you have to kind of tie something with your hands and you can't, or you're not able to do it with gloves on, then you will have a bad time and probably freeze very fast. So yeah, I guess the only thing that is missing to protect you from the cold Arctic winds and protects you from the chance of getting frostbites is a nice scarf. We had Merino ones, of course, which you can just put over your face and over your nose in the best case, because all the frostbites you get are probably on the nose. And then, to make the look complete, you have your ski goggles, which not only protects you from the sun, of course, but also the Arctic winds. And I would go outside in this Arctic storm, if there would be any, and would probably survive for a very long time. And I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of getting 60, 70 degrees in here. So let me get rid of everything I have on me, and then we'll continue with the ski boots we had. this is freedom. The ski boots. So I had boots called Alpha Outback. The others had Alpha Polar, which is kind of the more expensive version of them, I guess. They are made out of leather, have a waterproof gaiter, which is pretty nice and also important, I would say. And inside they are kind of like a soft hiking boot, kind of, and felt really good, to be honest. They have this pin here, which goes into the ski binding. And talking about ski bindings, this is also the ski we had. It's the Matsu's T55, which is basically 55 millimeters width, and it's a cross-country ski with metal or steel edges, I suppose. And the skis are kind of a difficult topic because, to begin with, I loved the ski on this expedition. It's super lightweight. Even with the binding, it weighs next to nothing, and every morning I would get out of the tent, grab my skis, and be happy because I knew on my feet there's no weight at all. It's not like ski touring with some heavy setup. You don't really feel them at all. They have short skins or long skins. I don't know why I had the short skins on here, because 90% of the time I skied on long skins. My pulk was very heavy and I had all the camera equipment in my pulk. I needed to be fast and I needed the proper traction to kind of overtake the others, to be able to film from the front and then also fall back again and then film from the side. But we had some issues with this particular ski model because I think they are probably a bit too lightweight for the stress we put them in those 40 days of skiing. And some of our skis, they broke just underneath the binding, and when we tried to repair them it kind of worked, but in the end they would just break completely. I have my broken ski behind me as a souvenir. But for the next time, I would probably choose a model that is a bit heavier, a bit sturdier, especially when you're skiing for more than a month. Although I would probably choose Matsu's again because I know some of their other ski models and they are super sturdy, they never broke so far. So yeah, that's it about the skis. Talking about shoes, these are my second pair of shoes I had with me. Synthetic, it's not down, I think it's synthetic camp shoes. Super comfortable to wear. They keep your feet warm all night and all day if you're not skiing or having a rest day. Would definitely recommend packing a pair of warm and comfortable camp shoes because you will hate yourself if you don't do it. Sunglasses, a very important topic as well, because when you're up in the Arctic, the sun is not only there the whole day, but also the whole night. And if you happen to be outside at night, you also want to protect your eyes against the rays of the sun. And you might be wondering, Moritz, why do you have clear sunglasses that don't protect you from anything? And that's because this glass gets completely clear when you're inside, and as soon as you go outside, it tints itself all the way to a state where you can't see the ice anymore, which is super neat. So we had this one, this kind of retro looking one, and then, as I said earlier, the goggles. All of them come from Ufex, which supported and sponsored our trip as well. And they make very nice goggles, so check them out. Good brand from Germany. Backpacks, also a very important piece of equipment, because although you have your sled behind you with all the equipment in there, you might need a backpack for kind of day trips, as we did in the south of the island, to go from base camp all the way to the south end and back to base camp with the necessary items for one day, like thermos or food or water. So I got this from Deuter, which is a German brand as well. Very nice. They had a rebrand recently, and to be honest, the old backpacks kind of looked a bit weird, wonky, and the new ones, I'm absolutely in love with them. They are perfect. This is this model, I don't really remember the name, and it has 30 or 32 liters. It's perfect for mountaineering and alpinism and day trips. When you're out for 40 days, you kind of want to go for 40, maybe 45 liters. I think all the others had this size, and I choose the small one because for all my camera gear and my technical equipment, I would have another bag. So I didn't need my backpack for anything of that. No camera, no lenses, no nothing. I had some clothes in there, and it's perfectly fine for a day trip like we had in the south. So that's why I went for the smaller one. Maybe you want to think about getting, 40 liters, 42, 45, which is kind of a good size overall. Now this is a Swiss Army knife, and if you want to go anywhere, especially where there's snow, you want to take this, a mat. That is not inflatable, and probably pretty cheap. I think I got this for 20 euros at Decathlon. The reason you want to use this is you can basically throw it anywhere you want and it won't break. Inflatable mats are great to sleep on, and you should definitely have one in your bag, but this kind of serves when you're sleeping as a layer underneath the inflatable mat. And then when you're having lunch in the snow, you can just put this in the snow and you don't have a freezing ass. If you have two mats, if your friend has a mat as well, you can put this on the ground, like on the where you sit in the snow, and then his mattress on the back. Then you can basically lean against the wall, which is probably snow as well, and don't get a wet back. And as I said, it probably won't break because I abused this quite a bit and it's still like new. So definitely pack a mattress which is foldable and not inflatable. Having said that, sleeping mat, very important. You sleep on it, it keeps you warm in the best case. I have the Thermarest Neo Air X-Therm, and it's especially made for winter camping. I think the R rating is about 6 or 6.9. And I would definitely recommend this one. It's lightweight, it's small. I can put it in my backpack if I'm just backpack hiking in the Alps or somewhere else. And what the others had is kind of an Arctic bedding, it's called. So you have a big bag, you put in a sleeping mat just like this, then your sleeping bag on top, and everything else you want to do. Close the bag up, and then at night, if you have pitched your tent, you can just put the whole bag inside, open the zipper, and your bed is done. What I had to do with this one is inflate it every night, deflate it every morning, which is alright, but it can get annoying. And then talking about mattresses, I would definitely recommend bringing this kind of equipment, which is a chair kit. So what this does basically is transform your mattress into a chair, which is really nice, and it doesn't sound like much now, but after a week of just lying down or standing, trust me, you really want to have a chair. And I use this every night in my tent, it's so comfortable. So definitely recommend it. Get yourself a chair kit as well for your mattress. It will make your life way more comfortable. So Arctic camping, especially at night, is no joke, and you want to have a sleeping bag that keeps you really, really warm, because the last thing you want is a cold night, and it's, especially for 40 days, you will have a bad time if your night is cold. So get yourself one that is about -30 to -35 limit temperature, maybe, for winter camping. What I did is I took my Deuter Astro Pro 1000, which is limited at -18 degrees, and just paired it with another synthetic sleeping bag. This is a system that also some companies like HealthSport, for example, sell. They sell you 2 separate sleeping bags, which you can combine when it gets really, really cold, like in the Arctic. You have to be careful though, because if you don't test the system in cold environments, it could be that it doesn't work so good and you have some weird moisture buildup. But this sleeping bag, which is 100% down, and then mixed with or paired with the other sleeping bag, which was synthetic, worked pretty well for me, so I would definitely do that again next time. Also, with the down sleeping bags, you don't want to get down wet at all, because if down gets wet, it kind of loses the ability to warm and to keep you warm. So that's also a reason for this dual sleeping bag setup. But as I said, test it, because some sleeping bags are not really compatible and it will get wet at night. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So we're almost done, and there are only 2 things left that I want to talk about, and that is our pulkas we had and our tents. But unfortunately I don't have any of them with me because I sold my pulk and the tent is with Jonas. So I need to show you some pictures from the trip and tell you about it. So the pulkas we had were pulks from Acapulco, which were fairly big and also fairly expensive, but they were definitely worth it because they slide really good. They have good skis underneath the pulk, and they are kind of waterproof, so even if it rained, this cover would hold the rain away and the water, so it's kind of nice. And then maybe you know those cheap plastic orange Paris polkas, which you can get for less than $100 probably online. And then Jonas told me that pulling a 60 or 70 kilogram Acapulca weighs just as much as the resistance you have on a like 20-30 kilogram Paris pulk, the cheap ones. So getting a expensive and a professional pulk for this kind of trip is really essential, I would say. And then the tents were from Barents Outdoor. They gave them to us as well for the trip to test. They were called Finse 4, I suppose. They were basically 4-person winter camping tents, and we had kind of some small issues with the zippers, for example, here and there. But other than that, they worked perfectly for the whole trip. And then if you're doing winter camping, especially, you want to have those snow flaps on the sides of the tent so that you can put snow on there when you pitch them to keep snow or wind outside of the tent. And that's probably the most essential thing about winter camping tents. And then also those long snow packs. We had kind of these lengths and then probably 15 or 12 per tent. So yeah, these two things kind of to consider when you get a tent for winter camping. Well, I guess that's it with this comprehensive list of Arctic adventure gear you should definitely bring on your next adventure if you're going out for several weeks or even months. To be honest, after coming back off this trip and looking at all the gear now a year later, I still think that I wouldn't let anything of this list at home. I would bring the same stuff to my next adventure because I used all the items on this list every day and most of them all day. So definitely recommended to bring all of this. And if you're still here while it got dark outside, you're a superstar. Thanks for hanging around and see you next time.